Nubia is now an independent company rather than a sub-brand of ZTE. It's one of several companies hoping that gamers will want a smartphone that advertises to the world that they are gamers. The new Nubia Red Magic goes up against the ultra-high-end Asus ROG phone and the much more affordable Honor Play. Let's see what this company has brought to the table. As expected, the Nubia Red Magic has a few stereotypical flourishes that set it apart from the usual sort of minimalist phones we see these days. While the front is pretty ordinary, you'll see a bright red button sticking out at the top of the right side. This is actually a slider and it's used to toggle the phone's Game Boost feature, which we'll explain in a bit. The back of this phone is where all the action is. It has an unusual pyramid shape sloping very slightly on all four sides to a seam running down the middle. Of course, this also means that the phone will rock from side to side at the slightest touch when it's lying on a table. The lines all come together to meet at a vertical RGB LED strip in the center. Depending on whether Game Boost is enabled or not, you'll see a light show in your choice of 3 patterns when the phone is on. To top off the whole look, we have 4 diagonal notches with, of course, red accents. The one on the lower left is actually the phone's speaker. It's a clever design but not necessarily practical. The other 3 are apparently vents for the phone's cooling system, so there is some function to this form. The body of this phone is all metal, which you can feel when you pick it up. Nubia says it has used aviation-grade aluminum. Under bright light, the finish looks like a very deep purple rather than black. It has a non-slippery matte texture, but fingerprints do leave smudges. While we don't mind the design, the fingerprint sensor is particularly awkward to use. In all other ways, this phone is perfectly ordinary. There's a 3.5mm audio socket on the top, a dual nano SIM tray on the left with no microSD card slot, and a USB Type-C port on the bottom. The Nubia Red Magic is powered by last generation's flagship Qualcomm SoC, the Snapdragon 835. While this is still a powerful chip and capable of running all of today's games, people are unlikely to feel that they're getting a really modern phone, especially this close to the launch of the Snapdragon 855. There's a generous 8GB of RAM and 128GB of UFS 2.1 storage, and no variants have been launched with any other configuration in India. The screen measures 5.99 inches and has an 18:9 aspect ratio with a full HD Plus resolution. The Dynorex glass on the front is claimed to be scratch and shock resistant. The display is bright and crisp with great viewing angles and no discoloration. Colors pop nicely in videos and games, and motion was smooth. As for software, the Red Magic runs Android 8.1. The company says this is stock Android, but there are a few customizations. Our unit hadn't been updated beyond the August 2018 security patch, which is definitely not ideal for a phone that launched in December. The most interesting feature is the Game Boost mode. This claims to improve frame rates and game loading time, but there isn't a lot of detail as to how it works. The company says it performs 128 custom optimizations and unleashes extra processing power, but that's all the information there is. When Game Boost is on, the LED strip on the rear can light up. You can choose from rainbow ribbon, laser wave, or skyline effects, all of which are fairly basic animations. The LED strip can also animate when you get an incoming caller alert or when the phone is charging. This really doesn't give us any sort of gamer vibe. In fact, it comes across as cheesy. The only preloaded app is the custom Kika keyboard. It actually displays ads right on the keyboard and therefore instantly put us off. It gives you emoji packs which are completely pointless because not only can your recipient not see them, they don't show up in your messages either. You tap on the keyboard, but the equivalent standard emoji shows up in your message. PUBG Mobile ran at the high graphics setting by default and we didn't have any trouble with it. Asphalt 9 Legends chose its default balanced profile, but it also ran perfectly well after we switched to high quality. We did feel the phone get quite warm after a few minutes of play, but it wasn't enough to be uncomfortable. The solitary rear camera has a 24-megapixel sensor. The camera app is surprisingly bare with only photo, video, and pro modes. A camera family menu takes you to further options called multi-exposure, light drawing, e-aperture, clone, and time-lapse. As for photo quality, the Nubia Red Magic delivered quite good results. Colors were vivid and focus was sharp. Some images lacked depth, but if we tapped to focus on our subject, the camera would understand what we wanted. Even zoomed into 100%, our close-up shots looked good. Our only complaint would be that there was a slightly warm tone to shots we took under direct sunlight. We had very mixed results at night. Sometimes shots came out dark and murky with very little detail, or there was motion blur even when we were perfectly still. Other shots were crisp and detailed. We had to try several shots multiple times just to make sure focus was locked, and if we were lucky, one attempt would come out looking great while the others were a mess. The rear camera can capture video at up to 4K, but there are no quality or frame rate options. We shot at the default 1080p resolution and found that video was just about okay. There was some focus hunting and a lot of jerkiness if we were moving while recording. Video at night was very shaky with no stabilization at all, but the quality wasn't too bad when we were standing still. The Nubia Red Magic has an 8MP front camera. The shots we took with the front camera came out looking great. Nubia has gone with a 3800 mAh battery, and this phone comes with an 18W charger. Battery life is one area in which the Nubia Red Magic really stood out. We played games for a few hours over the course of a day, streamed a full movie and spent a bit of time online, and the phone still ran for a day and a half. Our video loop test ran for 14 hours 17 minutes. Charging was also relatively quick, though strangely the company doesn't list Qualcomm's quick charge feature on its spec sheet. We think the Nubia Red Magic will appeal to people who want to show off. You can certainly play games very well, but that doesn't make this phone better than other options at its price level. That's primarily because the processor is now almost 2 generations behind the curve. We also think a lot of people appreciate dual cameras on a premium device these days. As for the LED strip and styling, we don't see much value in them. Sure, they look good, but they serve no purpose and in some ways are actually detrimental to usage. The Nubia Red Magic has launched a little too late in India. With better specs, more thoughtful design and no adware, we'd be more tempted to give it a recommendation. It's still a powerful phone, but it isn't the best option at its price unless you really want a gimmicky LED light strip. Thanks for watching. That was our review of the Nubia Red Magic. For more reviews and videos like this, do visit us at gadgets360.com.